everybody, welcome to GeekStorm. My name is Sean Hilton. I am the owner of Comics Cube, one of the founders, if not the founder, of the Kokomo Con, and I do some other stuff that's really not incredibly important. Today I am joined by one of my oldest friends in the world.
This is one of them.
This guy. Today I will be portrayed by Love-A-Lot Bear, and Mike will be portrayed by
what?
Grumpy Bear. You know, I didn't know before that Grumpy Bear and Love-A-Lot Bear were cousins.
Where can you buy these if you were?
You could go down to Geek Street in the heart of Kokomo at
downtown.
111 East Sycamore to a store called Kokomo Toys and Collectibles, run by two amazing human beings,
they're great. Well,
Amber and Todd
let's
Jordan.
be honest, one of them is pretty good. The other one I'm not sure about.
Hi, Grumpy Bear. We're going to have a good show today. Yes, we are, Love-A-Lot Bear. Yes, we are. On the way in, I got my Coke, one of those little Coke Huts.
What is it?
Cross street from the Coke Huts, a little gas station BP hut. And there was some guy getting put in bracelets and into a squad car as he was finishing up pumping gas. So if that guy happens to see us when he's being on intake, if this goes up fast enough,
sure.
Hi from Love-A-Lot Bear and Grumpy Bear. If
I'm
you're
not
not,
Grumpy Bear.
we're still happy, that you got a chance to check us out.
Right.
Hey, a lot of things going on this week. I want to get into
the first thing, obviously,
one of the
is
deaths. We always try to cover deaths.
We try to do cover deaths.
So
it's a horrible tragedy. Go with yours, and maybe they're the same one.
I found it. We're gonna take a minute on this one.
All right.
It's weird. Last week we had the death of Robert Conrad that we talked about. And that one was kind of a big deal for me.
Sure.
And Kirk Douglas, a legendary actor, but you know what? Didn't really touch me.
Okay.
I hate to say that. Just he's not my John Wayne.
Right.
He's not that guy for me.
Right.
I respect him as a acting legend. I get it. I understand it. This week, Kelly Nakahara passed away, who was Nurse Kelly in MASH. Nurse number one. And then later I found out, just today actually, when I wanted to make sure I was saying Nakahara correctly, that she was also the cook in the Clue movie from the 80s that's got a cult following.
You know, I saw that when it came out, but I haven't seen it since.
I just saw it a couple months ago for the first time because I took a friend to see it on the big screen. And I honestly, even I didn't know. I'm like, she looks familiar. So what I find strange, though, is that the passing of Kelly Nakahara, who played a bit part on MASH, had an actual bigger impact emotionally on me than the passing of Kirk Douglas. I was kind of for a second when I saw it, I really was no. And I mean, the truth is I haven't followed her career, but I have such fond memories of watching MASH. And there are 2 or 3 background nurses that I remember from MASH. She is definitely, in my mind, the background character that I remember the most from that program.
She got a spotlight in one episode, I remember.
She did. It was great.
Yeah. And you know what? Maybe that it's hitting you differently is because Kirk Douglas is obviously, we know how old he is. We've seen him over the last few years anyway, seen him because of his famous son. But Kelly was somebody who our memories of her were of a fairly young woman. And so in our mind, she's a fairly young woman. And so that's what, when you first thought of her, when you first mentioned her name, I thought of her in a scene from MASH. You mentioned Kirk Douglas, I think of the old guy in the wheelchair, and this is what he looks like now. So that might have something to do with it. But yeah, that's tragic. But also, you want to hear another tragic death?
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, you should share, but I'm not taking great fondness at any of this.
Does the name Cy Sperling mean anything to you?
It does, actually.
Father of the Hair Club for Men.
Really?
Has passed away at age 70-something.
Tell him not a member.
You're not a member or a client or the owner? He's passed away. One of those things, definitely is Ron Popeil still alive? I don't remember. Yes,
I believe he is.
Okay, so one of those things where, you spend a lot of time with a guy because you've seen him so many times doing the same thing over and over, but you know him from that. And it's just, another little tragedy that I hope we can all get past it.
I'm going to work on it.
Okay.
Ron Popeil, urban legend. He sold out all his stuff to make out. He kept the pocket fisherman license rights or whatever to that because supposedly that was the very first made for TV kind of ish item that he ever came up with or bought and owned. So that's what he held on to was the pocket fisherman.
I like it.
That's urban legend, but hey, you're here, and we don't have the production quality to go look this up and double check it.
Wait a half hour and you'll see some apparently.
Oh man, a lot of stuff. And actually,
yeah.
it's not. Your list looks pretty short this week.
Yeah.
What
I want to talk about this great comic I read called Plunge.
Did you actually read it, Mike?
No.
Okay.
But listen, the H.P. Lovecraftian influence of you've got a team, you've got a boat that comes wash ashore. It's been missing for years. Washes ashore, puts out a signal, and a team comes, and it's a sketchy job to begin with, but they're very well paid. Okay, and then these tentacle monsters, they're enormous monsters, come out of the ocean. That's the comic book called Plunge.
So you didn't read it?
No, I didn't read it. You told me about it last night at 9 o'clock. Where am I gonna?
You tell me about shows at like 8:50 in the morning before we do this show.
Okay, but that's something I can look up. I can't come into the.
I can't watch an
shop.
entire show that quickly. You could
can't
come
come
to the store and got a comic.
Not last
or
night.
illegally download it like everybody else is. It's destroying the industry.
I would never.
Arg. So, new book from DC. It's from Joe Hill, who is the son of Stephen King. And he's getting very quickly to the point in his career that he might stop being referred to as Joe Hill, the son of Stephen King, and just be Joe Hill.
Sure.
Joe Hill is also the creator and writer of the incredibly popular Lock and Key.
We finished it.
Which has been airing on Netflix for a little over a week or so now. And it seems to be coming into quite its own. He has got a label from DC. So he has got within DC his own little subgroup now called Hill House Comics, which kind of relate to the 50s, 60s, and into the 70s horror lines that DC and other companies did. And to get a full line like this is pretty impressive. So he is either writing them, overseeing them, or has a direct hand in producing all the comics in this line. This particular one he is actually writing. Stuart Eminem is doing the art on it, and they've got
Great
Dave
artist.
Stewart doing the inks.
I like him from the Year of the Binks.
So he is excellent inker, or excellent colorist, sorry.
Tracer.
He's really good. He's got mad skills, and Stewart's also amazing artist. So not only does the thing look really good, you get a really tight, good ghost story, and as you pointed out in your little thing, basically it's kind of about a ghost ship that pops up after 20 or 30 years.
So I was very close.
You nailed a lot of stuff. The big monster thing wasn't quite dead on yet, but that was just...
in 2 pages, you could see
Those
how...
were supposed to be squids that had been done up like...
Yeah, but they're enormous, right?
Well,
they're enormous.
they're Alaskan squids, Mike. Come on. Get your head out. Everybody knows this. But well-crafted suspense horror story with that little twist of oddity that a King kind of book would have it. Like, they're salvagers, and he is talking about his latest salvage, what they found, like, 40 meters down or something like that. And it's an adult toy. It's an adult sex toy, and they're going on for a couple of panels about what he's found 40 cases of, and blah blah blah. So there is that kind of tweak that you would see in a lot of Stephen King stuff, where there's just that oddity little thing, that slice of life, humorous, but then again just almost absurd as well, mixed into the reality of what's going on and the people involved. There is a little bit of a hint of a Jaws theme, as they refer to themselves as different members from the thing when they're describing themselves to other people. By far one of the best books I've read in a while. And the thing that I really, really like about it, and we've been seeing this for years now, but I believe at this point it's solidifying itself. We went through the 80s, the 90s, and most of the early 2000s living in a completely superhero-dominated comic book market. You and me both read books during that time. That was our golden age of collecting. And honestly, I mean, out of all the books you collected, how many weren't superheroes?
I can't think of any.
So I have a few, but I loved independent stuff, and so, but I mean, 90% of what was out there had to be superheroes.
At least.
But now we are seeing a lot of horror, a lot of suspense, noir books. We're seeing some war books done in an interesting fashion. So it's one of those times where it's the best of times, it's the worst of times. We are seeing more comics than we've ever seen before, and we're seeing more crap than we've ever seen before. But if you've got the ability to look through it, or to find somebody you trust that knows your likes and whatnot, there's so much good stuff out there right now. And this was one of the books I would highly recommend to anybody that likes horror and suspense with well-written stuff. If you're looking for just pure action adventure, take a pass. But if you want a good, well-done, it's the kind of book I would give to Casey and say, check this out, because I know that she's an avid reader, and I think it would appeal to her. So,
Okay.
yeah. Glad we covered that.
Speaking of things that are oldish and changing and different.
You're not that old, and you're not that different, man.
There's a new Doc Savage rumor coming up that possibly we might get something. It's been covered many times over many different genres and rumors, and different people have been attached to things along the way, whether it was Schwarzenegger in the 90s or The Rock in the 2000s.
I think he's been attached to it since like 2005.
Yeah, so I don't know who or what is going to happen with that, or if anything. If you want to have a good Doc Savage movie, watch probably Jumanji. I mean, that was The Rock playing a Doc Savage type character. Super big,
a little over the
strong.
top.
Yeah, but again, it's one of those things. It's just those types of, because we are so saturated with superheroes, that those guys who, although they came well before the things we have now, are seen as stealing from the things that are around right now. You know what I mean?
They've been around so long that people aren't.
Yes.
Like he's the originator of Superman.
He was before Superman.
I mean, his name
Yeah.
is, and the Fortress of Solitude. So many things that are Doc Savage were stolen to help make the Superman that we know today.
To make hundreds of characters.
Oh, yeah.
Have all
If you take him and the Shadow
Indiana Jones
out of stuff,
Yeah.
I don't know how much stuff we've got left if it's not recreated by someone else.
Yeah, but now you bring this character out, and people are going to say, "Oh, you're trying to cash in on Indiana Jones because there's a new Jones movie coming out." Well, no, this was way before that. Obviously, hundreds of years, but many years before that. So it could be 100.
It's not.
Okay.
He came out in the 30s.
Well, whatever. And the 1930s. Yeah, I know things. So.
Sometimes I don't even get it. I don't know what
you know what else is hundreds of years old and going away?
Your wit?
Indiana Beach. Indiana Beach is hundreds of years old.
93 years old.
It's hundreds of years old.
93.
Do you not round up when you do math? Obviously. I've seen your taxes.
Well, Tony does. Tony at TNC in Kokomo does my taxes. I don't really look at him much.
Indiana Beach has already closed and is not going to reopen.
Yeah. So, if you're from the area, and most of you probably are, there's been going on. I don't know how long they've been using it. I've been here since about 91.
Sure.
And we've been hearing this little jingle about crows singing, "There's more than corn in Indiana.
Right.
Go to Indiana Beach," something like that. So I posted up on my Facebook page, and you probably saw it.
I did see it.
I posted up, there's now only corn in Indiana.
Only corn in Indiana.
Now, yes. 1,400 people have shared that thing that I posted.
Wow.
I can put up, I'm going to give a scholarship to a small child for $500.
Which you've done.
30 people share it. There's a lost puppy. We should help find him.
Right.
35 people might share it.
Right.
There's now only corn in Indiana. 1.5 thousand people have shared this.
1,500.
We got to round up. I've heard the new math. So I'm just like, as I'm looking at this, I'm just like, well, one, that wasn't even that funny.
Yeah.
That was a throwaway line.
Right.
And two,
Right.
why couldn't that have been for the store? Why couldn't that have been for GeekStorm with 1,500 people sharing this crap?
People aren't used to you being clever, and that was
man.
kind of a clever little thing that you said. So, but I've been there a few times. I haven't been there a lot, but I know a lot of people, went there all the time, all summer. And I do remember there was a taco place in there that you could only get them there because they closed down the taco place outside, like in Monticello. And so you had to go in to get these tacos, and they were tremendous tacos. But a lot like Lord John's we have here, it's more like a cult following on that particular thing. But the rides were probably dangerous, and the water was probably
we say
pretty
that
dirty.
because the place was is older, it wasn't
Sure.
run down, it didn't have a huge budget. But honestly, if anybody had ever been hurt on any of those rides, like we would have heard about it.
probably.
Monticello's like a spitting distance from here. We would have heard about it. That would have been huge.
We don't
news.
see like cars flying off, the rails or anything. But there's probably,
There might have been some whiplash.
there's
or
probably
something,
some rust right here where somebody got really infected.
Talking about. I think the sad part. So it was a smaller theme park along a lake, almost like an Atlantic City kind of boardwalky kind of a feel to it, but
did.
on a lake.
Yeah.
So, couple things.
Sure.
One, if they had kept this place open, I understand the bean counters probably did a job here. You know, it's their job to figure out what's going to be making money or not. But if you just come out with the amount of attention this has got, because geez, my Facebook's been blowing up with this. I've seen like 2 or 3 petitions to try and save the place.
Sure, petitions.
If you had just posted up, hey, this is our going out of business season. This next season, this is it. This is our final farewell.
Oh, I see.
We're closing it down.
Have a farewell tour.
5% of all the ticket emissions is going to go towards the
Paying the kids
the
we didn't pay
layoff
from last year.
expense. The
Yeah.
what do you call it? The severance packages will
sure.
be paid out by you coming to support us.
Right.
Come and say goodbye to this 93-year-old
Right.
legend. I would have thought that they would have probably had the best year they've had in well over a decade.
Maybe.
And maybe have made up some of the losses in this final year.
Maybe.
And
Maybe they have a buyer and they haven't announced it yet.
that'd be great. I hope they do. I mean, sad part is me and Chris had gone there maybe 7 or 8 years ago, which is a long time ago, but in our heads, to go to that's
Right.
not that long ago. And I was looking to talk to my buddy Nick, who sometimes do the show, about taking his 8-year-old there. I thought it'd be the perfect day trip
Sure.
to go out with 8-year-old. A guy I think would love it. It's kind of his thing.
Some of the rides are fairly new, like within the last 10 or 15 years. Some of them are like
They had
brand
like 2 or 3 little roller coasters, and they had a water park. But for me, and when I think of Indiana Beach, I have one memory, and that is the haunted house.
Oh, yeah.
They had a haunted house
Oh,
there.
yeah.
and
The thing.
The first time I went
Oh.
through it, I was younger, and I don't remember why I was here. I was visiting family or someone as a kid, went through, and they had one scene. It was supposed to be you walk through a hallway of rats, supposedly coming back. All it is, I think, was springs or something.
Rubber
and-
hoses. That's what
Was
it
it
was.
rubber
Yeah,
hoses?
Yeah, yeah.
That would, you'd walk through them. But to this day, I remember that.
Yeah.
And then when I was an adult and went back and went through it, I'm like, okay, here we go. It's the rat room. And
The thing about that place that got me, that I was an adult the first time I went there, I was an adult, was the balcony.
Balcony.
Holy cow, I soiled my pants on
had
that
a
one.
had a breakaway balcony that
Yeah.
would fall like it was only like maybe 2 or 3
yeah,
inches.
just a few inches.
But all of a sudden you
You're
feel the
leaning out
balcony
against
go.
something and pop, pop.
I loved it. So
It would just go like that, but
Yep.
that's just enough for your
sense to
Your-
freak the hell out.
this is a certain part of your anatomy, and then it goes yip, just like
He,
that.
he went from grumpy bear to soiled bear.
That was scary.
I went from level up bear to
That was
peel
legitimate.
little bear.
Legitimate. I only have one more thing to talk about.
you got, buddy?
You have anything else you want to talk about?
Yes, there's just one thing.
Okay. Mine's probably not very long. They just announced on Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is filming right now, they just announced that Carl Lumbly has been added to the cast. Now, if you don't know who Carl Lumbly is, if I showed you his picture, which maybe we could right there since we have so much awesome production value, we could, you'd recognize him.
You just added hours to his time.
You just you recognize him because he's been in a ton of stuff. Most recently, and right now, he's in Supergirl as John Jones's father, a fellow Martian. Anyway, older African American actor. It's been around. He's in his 70s.
See the bad guy in Scandal?
Scandal.
Was he in Eureka?
I did not watch either one of those shows. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, keep going.
Anyway, Carl Lumbly. Okay, so the idea is that he's probably going to be this character named Isaiah Bradley, which is one of the first other Captain Americas. If there was a comic series called Truth, in which it was just a limited series in which they portrayed an African American in World War II around the time of Steve Rogers.
He's an alias.
Yes, he's an alias.
Great an alias.
Yeah, in that series anyway, they want to recreate the super soldier serum like so many people did, and they did. And
tested it.
They tested it on this group of black soldiers because this is back in the Tuskegee Airmen era where they weren't seen as having as much value, and so horrible things were happening to them back then. Now the writers of this book took it farther and said, okay, we're going to inject them, this whole platoon or whatever, with this serum to try to recreate a Captain America, and we're using the black soldiers because that if something, they're expendable.
Yes.
And it was so. He survived. He the only one that survived. They sent him on a mission, and he went on this mission. And when he came back, they called him AWOL, and because I think he stole the Cap suit and went as Cap because they didn't want to recognize him as that. Anyway, it was a very, very good book.
Yeah.
So we're thinking that this is the character that we're going to see in this Falcon and Winter Soldier. That maybe we'll see him. We're way past the World War II age, but if you have a super soldier serum in your
Or a version of it.
yeah, you've got some de-aging going on there,
Yeah.
and this could also lead to on down the road in comic lore anyway. His offspring, then I think grandson becomes Patriot, which is one of like the Young Avengers. So that might kind of springboard us into maybe some next phase stuff with bringing in some of these young heroes. We've heard we're gonna get that Hulkling. We're gonna get him.
If you get him, then you have to get Wiccan.
Yeah, so
almost guarantee.
A lot of stuff's going on, and with just the possibility of that character playing, that actor playing that character in that show, none of which is confirmed other than that
Opens
he's cast.
a lot of doors.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
The same vein, they have announced a casting call for She-Hulk.
No, yes.
Open it up. They want any race, anything like that, female. And the bigger thing, though, regardless of just opening up to any possibility, is they stated in the actual listing for what they were looking for, She-Hulk will be an Avenger.
Cool.
So this actress knows going into this that not only is she going to get a Disney Plus television show program out of it, but will then very likely end up on the big screen with this guarantee that you're going to be an Avenger. Now that said,
if you walk out that door, you are an Avenger.
get out of the way!
That is one of my favorite moments. My son and I and my brother were talking about our favorite moments in. Sorry to derail you real quick. Our favorite moments in the
That's
Marvel
what this whole
movies.
thing's about, man.
Yeah, I know. And at first we were going top 10. What are your top 10 favorite moments in the the Marvel universe so far, the Marvel Cinematic
That
universe
man
so
is
far?
playing Galaga.
So we did our 10, and then we're like, well, yeah, but what about this? What about that? So now we've decided we're going to go back and do our top one moment from each of the 23 films. And in Age of Ultron, that is definitely my favorite moment when Hawkeye says to Scarlet Witch, if you walk out that door, you are an Avenger. I was like, that gives me chills right now just hearing that.
That's cool, but it's also Hawkeye.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have the pull.
He needs good lines because he's not really. He doesn't
have the pull to make that call. So you got to run that by Cap or Tony.
No.
I'm sorry, we got to sign off.
He's
on
not
that.
a junior Avenger, okay? He's not a.
But with that opening up,
Yeah.
I can't. If I was the casting director, I'm like, I've got one name at the top of my list for a She-Hulk, and that's got to be. You're gonna have to help me with the name. Who's the mixed martial artist from The Mandalorian? Gina Carano. That's number one. Like everybody else after that, screen test, because we're a big enough company and there's enough money behind it. I mean, if Uma Thurman wanted the role, you're going to do a screen test.
Here's the thing:
if Helen Mirren wanted the role, you were going to do a
Helen
screen
Mirren,
test.
right? I mean,
anybody that was going to be
Helen
in
Mirren
this,
can
I'm
do
saying though,
anything.
is screen test.
Money.
Nobody's walking into this role as a freebie and just getting it. But that name right now, one, she's already done Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Two, I need somebody that's going to be able to pull off that physicality, but also Jen Walters is a lawyer and has to be smart.
Right.
There is nothing about her that doesn't scream to me that she fits all the bill for everything you would want. And putting her on screen as an Avenger, you're going to have to like dephysicalize her like you did Cap in the first movie when you make him scrawny, so that she can be normal before kind of hulking up a little bit.
So here's what we don't know so far is, are we going to have a Jennifer Walters that transforms back and forth? Or are we going to have a all CGI, much larger, 6 foot, 7 foot tall Jennifer Walters? Or are we going to have a painted actress? What are we going to get there? That will determine, I think, what type of actress. Because if you go CGI, number one, very expensive. Because I want to see She-Hulk on screen on a show called She-Hulk. Okay. Sure. Number two, if she is going to be CGI, then you can technically get anybody, because anybody can wear the suit and the dots.
Sure.
Okay.
I still want Gina.
Except you. She's awesome. There's no doubt. She was the movie. She was in.
Do you have a better one?
Haywire? No, I haven't thought about it, but now I will. I will think about
Give it some thought.
Okay, I will.
I mean, if they stick to the comic, once she turns, she can physically turn back into her non-Hulk persona. She's one of the few people that can do it without the weird being that she can just do it. She doesn't ever choose to do it.
Right.
When she does turn back, there's something going on that has either forced her to do it, or there's a family get together and mom's kind of thing. Like, no, you can't show up as that. But overall, she is one of the few people. She controls her mentality. She is not angry all the time. She is a normal person inside a Hulk body. So once she changed, she never wants to go back. She doesn't want to be normal.
I wouldn't either.
So comic-wise, that would be the case. TV show-wise, for budget.
But these are giant budget shows.
I'm having
too.
you go back because it's easier to have you as an actress in regular clothing and then to have you CG every once in a while. Painted, Hell no, it's not Lou Ferrigno from the 70s, man.
Right.
We're not going back to that. Nobody's going to put up with that. That ain't going to happen.
These shows can be anywhere from 6 to 10 episodes, I'm guessing.
Sure.
So being smaller episodes, maybe we're gonna have the budget for it.
I mean, you look at that Mandalorian budget.
Oh, it's a 10 million episode. Just
Something like that, yeah.
Game of Thrones.
I think it was 12. I think once I did the math and broke it down, it was like 12.5 million an episode.
Yeah, it's they're spending money and they're making money.
Speaking of Mandalorian,
Go ahead.
if this source is correct, this came out of the UK, there is finally been announced a Mandalorian Lego set of the Razor Crest, which will come with a Mandalorian, a child, IG-88, a Stormtrooper, and
IG-11.
IG-11. Thank you, IG-11, and Carl Weathers' character. I can't remember the character's name. I'm horrible with names.
Kit Fisto. I don't remember his
No,
name.
it's not. Take that back.
It's Carl Lumley.
It's not.
It's
Don't tell people these things. That's wrong. But either way, it's going to be. I'm going to guess.
Grief.
Here in the
Grief
States, I'm expecting that set to be about $150. It's
too
going to be
much.
over 1,000 pieces.
Ugh.
I want to say it was
That's 10 hours.
119 in UK euros or pounds or whatever they've now switched back to now that Brexit's out. So if we do that with an American conversion, 130 to 150 is probably where it's going to be. So my guess is 149 for 1,000 pieces. That's a little overpriced. But I got to admit, I want it. I mean, that's just a piece that I'm going to want.
There was also a little casting news from Mandalorian Season 2 in that there is a WWE diva that is in the show next year. And her name, of course, is the girl with the pink hair. Oh, it hasn't? Are you sure, Mike? Mike?
Oh, the boss.
The girl with pink hair. That's her name.
The boss. She's the boss.
She's the girl with pink hair.
We had an autograph for her for the Kokomo Con a couple years back.
Oh, did you?
Her like WWE nickname is
right.
she's the boss.
Oh, I see.
So so I know who you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
weird because she's been having some issues with the WWE, or at least, but we don't know whether that's real or whether that's being played up now that social media has come into the whole kayfabe and what you know, what you don't know kind of a deal and
Right.
things like that. So. She portrays herself as being unhappy with the company. She's asked for a release several times, but whether any of that's real or not, I don't know. So you can't just type in WWE Mandalorian. A little surprised.
No.
All right. So
Maybe it's wrong. Maybe what I said was wrong. Maybe what I said was wrong.
I think I saw a picture of that myself. So
You did?
yeah.
So I don't know. But that's neither here nor there. Nobody cares.
World of Comics. Batman number 89 came out
Sasha
this
Banks.
week. Yeah,
Sasha Banks.
Thank you.
Purple hair.
And I know that. I just, that's connected. Batman number 89 hit the comic shelves this week. It was the most requested comic book I have had.
I'm glad you got me one.
Since the death of Superman.
Wow.
We, for the first time ever, and I didn't do this with the death of Superman because I wasn't in charge back then. I was a merely like assistant manager or something back when that came out. But I actually had to cut off reservations for this book. We did not have enough copies. I think our store only ended up with like 20 copies.
Oh, glad I got
we
one.
ended up with we had I think 17 subscribers, 17 or 18 subscribers, one or two special requests.
From me.
And then I shut it off. We had one copy left when I cut it off.
Tell us why.
So it is rumored, and I've opened it up. I have not read it yet. That this is the first appearance of a new female-oriented henchman for the Joker character.
Because Harley's not around anymore with the Joker.
Harley's,
She's not,
because of the movie, she's
not
a
Putin's-
good guy now.
Right.
So they wanted to have another character that could be a henchwoman.
Right.
And so her name is going to be Echo, I believe.
No.
No? Do we know what the name is?
Punchline.
Punchline, thank you. Punchline, and if when I was flipping through it, the first appearance in this thing is her mouth.
I don't know.
That's it.
Okay.
There's one panel, because I was flipping through the back. I'm like, well,
Oh.
we're going to have this at the very back.
Oh.
And so in the last page or two, you saw a female's lips.
That can't be the first appearance.
That was it. Oh, man. On eBay, they were selling for the day they came out, they were selling green, $25 to $35 for
crazy.
a $3 book.
That's crazy.
So the one copy I had left was for me. It went out the day before it came out to go to a professional presser to get pressed to then be sent off to CGC for a quick turnaround. So I'm hoping to have this book pressed, graded, and back in my hands within less than a month.
Wow.
Now we'll see if it's actually worth anything, or if I just threw all the money in the world away
You
at
never
this
know.
thing. But
You never know.
but I sent off a handful of books for that. So.
Speculation rarely goes bad in the world of comics.
Right now, speculation is really going badly for the world of comics. Things are getting a little ugly, and in fact, this book I noticed on social media might be one of the first really tipping points where people. I've owned a comic book store for going on 10 years. I have worked in the comic book industry since 1989.
That's a long time.
I was the summer between like my sophomore and junior year in high school is when I became professionally employed. By professionally employed, I worked for $10 an hour in comics.
That's good money.
Well, back in 1989, they were like
Yeah.
75 to $1 a piece.
Yeah.
So I was making bank on comics back when I was a little kid.
Sure.
So I've done this a very, very long time, and I have lived through, and you've been through as a collector, through one peak speculation period. We are now living through the second peak speculation period.
I don't like it.
The first one didn't end well, and now people are convinced that the second one is going to somehow end well. This one will be the turnaround. This time it's going to go right.
Right.
Except when we see a book like this that literally has the lips of a character
Right.
who may or may not even be around. I mean, all we know, because her big full appearance is supposed to be next week,
Right.
in a book that I also had to cut off
The
and
detective,
say,
or the, what was it?
"You're the villains."
You're the villain, right.
Nobody bought issues 1 and 2.
That's the one I got.
From me.
Right.
So we ordered. I have 6 copies of that book
Oh, I'm
coming
so
in.
glad I got one of those.
So I just cut. I canceled all the pre-orders for everybody, and I said nobody gets it except for me. I'm keeping them all.
Nice.
And but no, that's a joke. The reality is stores did it.
Oh no, that's awful.
Stores this week
Oh, I'd go to a
were
new store.
trying to charge people, subscribers.
No.
We're trying to charge them above cover price for this book.
No.
Now,
Bye.
my thinking is my subscribers, and this isn't me trying to even kiss ass for once. This is just reality. Subscribers are what keep a comic book store
Pay your bills.
open.
I know I've got X amount of dollars coming in next month.
My subscribers have to be treated right. If not, honestly, like gold. They are
Right.
the backbone and foundation of my business.
Right.
So every single one of my customers got that copy. The 1 or 2 people that requested it
Yeah.
before I got it cut off,
Right.
they got their copy. But I won't lie, if it come down to we had more subscribers, I was going to have to cut those special requests.
Right.
Because the subscribers were going to get it.
Right, right.
When we undid the boxes, my boxes this week were the worst I've had them in forever. Books were misplaced. They never said it's. I don't want to go to.
That's because somebody at UPS was down there digging for that
Somebody
book.
did something different for the first time in well over 5 or 6 years that I've seen something like this. Books were in different boxes. That, like Batman, we'll say 89, the big book we're talking about, I ordered like 20 copies of. 3 copies were in this box. 17 were in another box altogether, separated. They don't separate like that. That is incredibly unusual. So
Right.
as we're going through them, and I'm getting all these mistakes, I'm getting weird stuff, I'm getting just a lot of stuff wrong on my invoice, I'm not getting the Batman book. It's not showing up. It wasn't until the very last thing of books that it finally showed up. And I am to the point where I'm like, it's you at Indiana Beach on the balcony, but for me for several minutes, as I'm like, if that book's not in there, none of my customers are going to believe me.
Right.
As good as a relationship as I have with them,
Right.
I mean, and with all the rumors going around that other stores are gouging people, if this book is not there,
Right.
they're
Right.
going to assume that I did something with them all.
Right.
It's going to destroy my business. And when I reach out to Diamond and say, hey, you guys didn't send me this book, what
Right.
the hell? They're going to be like, well,
Sure.
too bad, we don't
Yeah.
have any.
Right.
They're the hottest thing in the world.
Right.
You can get it on the second prints.
Right.
And it would have screwed me over. So luckily, we ended up with exactly the kind we had. I ended up with my 1 copy, and I kept it. So
All right.
there you go. So big stuff going on. If you're into comics, it's definitely time. If you're interested in all that, check it out. Stop by a local comic book store. And while you're doing that, stop on into the downtown of Kokomo to check out Geek Street. We're going to find Kokomo Toys and Collectibles, Comics Cube, Chapter 2 books, American Hi-Fi, and Kingdom Cards and Games.
Oh, there's so many
There's a lot of stuff
geeks
going
on
on
this
down.
street.
You get me my my retro arcade pinball bar,
Oh,
and
let's
I'm
do
going to
it.
be in heaven.
Let's
That's
do it.
The last thing that I need, I think, for this to be
Let's do
just
it.
utopia.
Let's do it. I'm
Be
in.
groovy, everybody. We'll see you next week.